ఓం శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమః. శ్రుతి స్మృతి పురాణానామాలయం కరుణాలయం నమామి భగవత్పాద శంకరం లోకశంకరం. ఆత్మస్వరూప బంధుగణ, వెరీ గ్లాడ్ టు బి ఇన్ యువర్ మిడ్స్ట్ అండ్ I appreciate the marvelous effort going on here. And I can see the beauty of this ambience in which you are striving to study the vision of the rishis called Vedanta. And when Sri Shantatmananda asked me to take a class, I suggested that probably I will take some text from Sanskrit literature, because I always felt that in these courses a lot of emphasis is laid on Vyakaranam, rightly so, but then probably no attention is paid to Sahityam, the language and literature, So, it is like studying a lot of English grammar, starting with Wren and Martin and all that, and never looking at Shakespeare or Carlyle or any such thing. Therefore, it will be nice if some Sahityam could be introduced. Sahityam is literature. And then language also will blossom. As you study the literature, your command over the language will improve. And so that was the idea which I had when I suggested like that. But then he selected Vairagya Shatakam. It's an interesting choice, because the Bhartrihari's text can qualify as part of literature. In fact, when I studied it as a young boy, I did not to look at it as a Vedanta text. I was introduced to it in the format of literature only. And then when you look at that one part of the text, there are 300 verses consisting of 3 units of 100 verses each. And so one of those 100 verses unit, it nicely fits into a Vedantic context, because as the name suggests, it's 100 verses on dispassion, Vairagya Shatakam. So, the other 2, Niti Shatakam also can fit into a Vedantic context, because the ethics and morals, they are an integral part of human existence, human conduct. And therefore, Vedanta, the so-called students of Vedanta, ultimately they have to live in the world after all. They cannot live elsewhere. Even Swamis have to live in the world only. In fact, wherever you live, that is called the world. And so, you need to have an appreciation of the ethics and morals as they were visualized by the thinkers and philosophers of the ancient times, hoary past. So, I'm not sure when Bhartrihari lived. In India, the understanding of history was almost nil. In fact, the word history and any book on history was introduced to the Indian society by the British people. Before the advent of British, anything called history was not there in India. The reason is the Indian genius did not pay attention to the recording of history, because their attention was on higher things, like what is the truth of human being, and so what is the reality of this world. So that kind of focus was there, and therefore no attention was paid. Altogether no attention was paid on history. Already I am digressing. I am supposed to start something else, but I am going on to something else. My approach is like that, a bit tangential. And so the rishis, they were busy writing Puranas and maybe other treatises of Vedanta and other things, and they never paid attention to history. Rightly so, I think, because what is history? History is the chronicle of dreams, because I will come. You write your question on a piece of paper and keep. So I appreciate your enthusiasm. Please write it. So, what is history? It is the recording of a dream, The world is like dream-like. You must have heard that. And so, suppose you chronicle all your dreams. What is the value of that chronicle? History is like that. And therefore, no need to write any history. Anyway, therefore, I have justified my ignorance about the history of Bhartrihari. Okay? I don't know when he lived. Certainly, I do not know. Maybe BC, all these people seem to be BC. Everything seems to be BC. Maybe he too lived in BC. I think so. He seems to have lived in Ujjain, the present town of Ujjain. And so, a very ancient scholar, poet, and the story goes that he was a king also. To begin with, he was a king, and then he was very badly disenchanted with the kingship, with the life in general, and therefore, out of a sense of disenchantment towards the worldly life, he gave it up and became a mendicant, and probably after that he must have added the Vairagya Shatakam, or maybe after that he wrote all the three units of 100 verses each. The word Bhartrihari itself is an interesting name. It is a compound word. Bharta chasav harishcha, I suppose. I am just looking at the word. Not that I have got it from some book or any such thing. So, Bharta chasav harishcha, what they call karmadharaya samasa. So, the name of Ishvara. All names in India are Ishvara's names only, So, he is the protector, Bharta, and also he is the one who dispels affliction from the heart. Hari. Harati iti harihi. The one who takes away the affliction, the sorrow from the human heart. That's why he is called Harihi. So, name of Ishvara. And so, both names are put together and becomes Bhartruhari. Bhartru is the Pratipadika, Rakaranta Shabda it is. And so, it looks like that. That is the name, a very interesting name. And so, he wrote 100 verses on Vairagya. What is Vairagya? So, Raga is attachment. It comes from the dhatu Raj or Ranj. Even if it is Ranj, the Upadha Nakara will go away. So you will be left with Raj. And that Upadha, now A is there, Laghu Upadha. It becomes Dirgha. And Ja becomes Ga. They alternate. Chavarga and Kavarga, they alternate. You have all the required sutras. So it becomes Raga. You see, the Raga, the word Raga, translated as attachment. And its counterpart is Dvesha, translated as aversion. That is the preferred translation. Raga and Dvesha. A pair of emotions, attachment versus aversion. And some translation we have to make, that is the valid translation. But in Sanskrit, if you look at the word, its origin, and what we call its etymology, the nirukti, it means a lot. Like, take a piece of white cloth. That is what they do in Hrishikesh all the time, the sadhus. So they take white cloth and prepare a colored dye solution, a solution of the dye, red dye. You dissolve red or the ochre color, whatever dye it is. And so you dissolve it in water. And so you have a very deeply colored solution. and you have a white cloth. And now you dip this piece of cloth, in the white solution and keep it there and pull it out. Now the cloth, every pore of it and every part of its fiber, the weft and the horizontal and the vertical, whatever you call it. So the warp and weft of the cloth that is entirely colored permanently, as you cannot make it white again. However well you wash it, you cannot make it white again. It is as if the color is imprinted very firmly into the very fabric of the cloth. That is how they say, right? Now the cloth is now become colored, almost irreversibly. That is the power of raga. Similarly, you have a mind which is sattva. Sattva, rajas, tamo gunas are there, you know. Mind is essentially sattva, pure. And the sattva guna it is characterized by knowingness. Sattva means you are able to know. That is sattva. Rajas means activity, lot of movement. Tamas means blankness or stupidity. That is the tamas. So the mind is essentially sattva. Every human mind is essentially sattva. An animal mind is rajas essentially. And even the flora, even the plants and the trees seem to have a mind. They are also living things, you know, but their mind is essentially tamas. That is how it is described. Anyway, the other two you keep aside. Essentially, human mind is essentially sattva. Means essentially shining and bright and can cognize, can know. That is the mind. Now that mind, when it is applied to the things of the world, like Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, they are the five objects called Vishaya. And when the mind is applied to one or more of these things of the world, it is as if irreversibly colored. And now it is impacted very deeply that you want the same Vishaya again and again. Now you are attached to you are hooked to the Vishaya. It is like you have thrown the hook and the Vishaya is the ring. And now you are stuck for good to that. This is raga, attachment. So, this is how we get attached to the things of the world. I see a form, now I get attached to that form, rupa. I hear a sound and I get attached to that sound. And then I taste a particular taste, I taste it, and then I relish the taste, and now I am attached to that. Similarly, gandha and the sparsha. Sparsha is the touch. So this is how you are attached to the things of the world. Now the things of the world won't attach themselves to you. You go and attach yourself with the things of the world. So that's why I used to say the world has no hooks, it only got rings. All the world has got only rings. All hooks are our hooks. We throw the hooks onto those rings of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and then by throwing those hooks, we get hooked. We get bound for good. This is attachment. That is the meaning of the word raga. So the object of the world very deeply colors, your mind. Like that dye solution colors a white piece of cloth. Similarly, rupa, rasa, gandha, etc., the objects of the world color that inner organ called the antahkarana, the mind. And now you are hooked to that thing because of that coloring. That is what is called raga. And so a person who is free from raga, he is called viragi or vita ragaha. These are some of the words. And that status of that such a gentleman, the status, so the status means the character of that mind in which there is no attachment. The character of the mind which is not colored by the objects of the world. The character of the mind which is not impacted or which is not hooked to the objects of the world. That character of the mind is called Vairagyam. So, passion is raga. Raga is passion. And the opposite of passion is dispassion. Sometimes, if raga is called attachment, the opposite of attachment is detachment. You can use like that. So, sometimes it is indeed called detachment. And dispassion is more often used as a translation for Vairagya. And this Vairagya, it can happen in a few ways. Like, you get attached to a particular thing, and then you get smitten by that. Like, you go after you go after nice, enjoyable food, rich food, and then you become sick eventually. Bhoge roga bhayam, I think that comes from Bhartrihari only. Bhoge roga sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvi nurunam vairagyam eva bhayam. That must be from here only. So bhoge roga bhayam. The more you want to enjoy, the more you are courting the illness, disease. And therefore, a person enjoys a lot of rich food and becomes sick and develops out of that pain of sickness, that suffering associated with sickness, he develops a kind of aversion towards food. So now he has acquired what you call dispassion towards food. So that means what? You must have a bitter experience with the things of the world to get into dispassion. That is how we come into it. Without that suffering associated with the worldliness, it is not easy to become dispassionate, right? So, therefore, people learn much better from pain. They cannot learn from pleasure. Only from pain we learn in life. Therefore, when we go into the world with all our passion and then get smitten or get beaten, get afflicted by the world offers us, gives you so much sorrow and suffering and also fear, and then you learn from that experience. Many people don't even learn from that experience. A few people have the wisdom to learn from that experience. And they grow into, out of that suffering associated with the worldliness, they grow into dispassion. This is the way we come into dispassion. That is a very normal way. And even Bhartrihari, as the story goes, came into dispassion exactly this way only. He was a very worldly person to begin with, and then he learnt a very bitter lesson in his worldly experience and became a dispassionate person. That is how the story goes. And therefore that is one way to grow into dispassion. Then there is another way of looking at this aspect of acquiring dispassion. There is another way. This is a very painful way, very difficult way to grow into dispassion. But the way it happens with most of the people, if not with everyone. But there is another way. Having acquired a hint of dispassion, Vairagya, you can really grow fast by applying what is called viveka, discrimination. So once the discrimination, in discrimination there is no suffering involved, you are able to see between the truth. You are able to discriminate between the two, between the opposites. And once you discriminate, like this is a useful thing and this is a useless thing, like what you call trash. And so in the home, we keep all the useful things and collect the trash in a separate basket and throw it out. So this is a process of discrimination. All useful things are held in home, and whatever useless things are there, they are thrown out. So whatever is thrown out is obviously useless. So you have to make a discrimination to that effect. Only when you are able to discriminate between the right and wrong, you will hold on to the right and reject the wrong. Therefore, this power of discrimination, it helps in further growth into dispassion. So, two ways. One, the experience of suffering that we get in the world through our worldliness. Two, the discrimination. Both play an important role in the growth of Vairagya. Both have a relevance. Some people try to say, discrimination will do everything. I don't think so. Discrimination is useful. But the first lesson of Vairagya is always given by the suffering that we get in the world. It looks like that. Anyway, that is some introduction to dispassion. You see, the books available with us, they seem to have different versions of Vairagya Shatakam. Like I caught hold of one old book with a Sanskrit commentary also. In that the first verse is the same as this, the papers that are circulated here. But the second verse is different. Second verse is a smaller verse, not this big verse. And that second verse I remember very well from my childhood studies. In the childhood or as a young boy, I was studying this Bhartrihari, and the second verse I remember from those days. That is given in this book. So when we finish the first verse and come to the second verse, we have to make some adjustment about that. The verses are different. We'll come to that. Now, how do we go about studying these verses? I will pursue a method of teaching the literature, okay? And whatever the Vedanta comes in, that comes as part of the verse itself. But my focus will be on the literature part of it. So how we do that? So first we recite the verse. Generally, I remember from my childhood days when we were studying Sanskrit, the poems with a scholar. So first we have to say the verse twice, and then give the padacheda, means break the individual words, and then give the meaning. Even while giving the meaning, the jumbled words are organized in the syntactical fashion. Karta, karma, kriya, the subject, object and the verb. There is a syntax, in that sequence we arrange all the jumbled words. Even while arranging, we give the meaning. Therefore, the entire verse now gets reorganized as a very cogent sentence. So that is done. And once that is done, that is finished, so the meaning is now with you. And now we go for samasa. Each word we take and discuss the samasa associated with that word. And then we do shabda. So you must be knowing shabdas, Ramaha, Ramo, Ramaha, like that. So that part we do. And then wherever there are verbs, one or two verbs will be there. So we do the verb part also. Like bhavati comes, bhavati, bhavataha, bhavanti. The entire lakara having 9 forms, that is said. So that completes almost the verse. And if you have that energy, then one more thing is also there. That is called anvaya. So that is also done. And so everything associated with the words of the verse is completed. Now we recite the verse one more time and conclude the verse. This is the method. Let us see how much we can do. Now I will recite the verse, you have to follow me. And while reciting, you must be doing a lot of recitation, I am sure. I would insist that you have to distinguish between Alpa Pranavarna and Mahapranavarna. You cannot recite all of them same. So, like Ka and Kha, they are two different things. You cannot pronounce Kha also same as Ka. And Ga and Kha, they are different. Like Shambhu is there. You cannot say Shambhu. You have to say Shambho. So I heard somebody singing Shambho, Swayambho, like that. It is not Shambho, Swayambho. It is Shambho, Swayambho. So you have to pronounce like that, okay? And if I notice that you have not pronounced the Mahapranavarna properly, I may ask you to pronounce again, okay? So let us say you follow me and say. And then I am not a music person, but there is a style of reciting the verse also. The verse, I am not singing the verse, I am just reciting it. And see, all of this must be known to you. I don't know you properly, that's why I am guessing everything. So, you may want to follow the style also, the way it is recited. Okay? Let us say, Chudottam Sita Charu Chandra Kalika Chinchat Shikha Bhaswaraha. So I have broken the sandhi. It is Bhaswaro is there. But when you break it, it becomes Bhaswaraha. In fact, in this particular sandhi, you can even say Bhaswaro. Nothing wrong with it. Leela Daddha Vilola Kamashalabha Shreyo Dashagre Sphuran Antaspurjadapara Moha Timira Pragbhara Muchatayan. There the sandhi you have to break. Chetas Sadmani Yoginam Vijayate Jnana Pradipo Haraha. You have to say the entire line now. Okay? Chudottam Sita Charu Chandra Kalika Chinchat Shikha Bhaswaraha Leela Daddha Vilola Kamashalabha Shreyo Dashagre Sphuran Antaspurjadapara Mohatimira Pragbhara Muchatayan Chetas Sadmani Yoginam Vijayate Jnana Pradipo Haraha. So the sentence, first you locate the verb and get the subject. Okay? And if there is an object, then also object. If it is karmani prayoga, if it is a transcendental verb, transcendental or transitive verb they call it? Transitive, not transcendental, I am sorry. So if it is transitive verb, you get the object. If it is not intransitive, then you get the subject only. The verse is like that. Let us say, Haraha Vijayate. That is the sentence. Haraha means hara. Vijayate means shining brilliantly. He is conquering. That is the meaning. But then what is there to conquer? Lord Shiva or Ishvara is conquering. What will he conquer? There is nothing to conquer, you know. That's why we say Sarvotkarsha. Vijayate means Sarvotkarsha. He is shining brilliantly. That is the meaning. Okay? Haraha Vijayate. Hara, you see, Ishvara, the Lord, in Upanishads is called Brahma. Brahman. The Nakaranta Napumsakalinga Shabda. Prathama Ekavachanam Brahma. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That Brahma is an impersonal name. Impersonal name. Ishvara is not a person. We personify Ishvara. In the Upanishads, Ishvara is not a person. Because Ishvara has no shape, no akara, no form to Ishvara. Whereas when it comes to the Purana, so we personify Ishvara. Like everything, we personify everything. and in the process we personify Ishvara also. Like a cloud is there, we personify the cloud. Say Parjanyaha, so he becomes, the cloud becomes Mr. Parjanya. So the tree, Vrukshaha, becomes Mr. Vruksha. Then Lata is a creeper, it becomes Miss Lata or Mrs. Lata. So like that you go on personifying. That is how the Puranic literature is. There is an issue there. There could be some beauty in it, and there could be some advantage in it that you can have a murti, an idol, and start worshipping the murti. All those things will become meaningful or possible. So those things are there. But then there is a disadvantage also. The disadvantage is the idea of a person. It sits in you so strongly. Now God is a person now, a very, very big man, a big person, male also, and that is okay, that is all right, but in the context of Vedanta, it brings in an implication which is the most troublesome implication, ultimately working against the very salt of Vedantic teaching. And that implication is, you end up taking yourself to be a person. But that is not what Vedanta is. If you understand anything about Atma, the very first thing is Atma is not a person. It is an impersonal reality, not a person. Not just reality, impersonal reality. And suppose after the end of a course of Vedanta, suppose you take yourself to be a person, now highly qualified Vedantic person. So, there cannot be anything worse than that. Such a monumental contradiction it is. And so we end up into that contradiction. So this is a huge problem. And I don't know how to tackle with it. I am perplexed myself with that. I ask you to think about it. So on one side we are talking of the impersonal reality which transcends all the limitations of a person. That is what Ishvara is. Like that we talk so much about in Vedanta. For example, in Upanishads, we are talking of Brahma, which is totally free from anything that is associated with a person. A person is limited in space, Brahma is spaceless. A person is born and will die, Brahma has no birth and no death, ajaha, amaraha. A person is having a shape, Brahma has no shape. So like that, a person is ever changing, Brahma is the changeless reality. So, you tell me, you supply me the details of a person, I will tell you what Brahma is not. You understand? So, the entire teaching negates the very idea of a person, Brahman being the person. That is how the teaching is. And now what is this Brahma? Is yourself, Tattvamasi. And that is the meaning of the word Atma. Once again, I will put it in a different word. You want to know yourself? You supply me the details of your personality, I will tell you what you are not. So that is how the Atma is to be understood. And so that is the goal. Ultimately, you have to grow into an impersonal reality. That is what we have to do. But we start this process by contradicting ourselves at every step, by totally getting attached to the paraphernalia of a personality. So you have to think about it. I digress, I digress and come back. That my teaching is not a linear teaching. I'll be going up and down all the time. So the word haraha. Haraha immediately, the job is done very easily by saying Hara is Lord Shiva. So that becomes a person again. So for the part of the verse it will work all right. But here the reality, that is Ishvara, is presented in the description of a person. And what is this person? Is it the real person? No, there is no reality. The personhood is not real. It is just for the purpose of mental worship only, what we call upasana. Upasakanam karyartham brahmano rupakalpana. For the benefit of upasaka. What is the benefit? To make an upasana. Upasana is mental worship. Possible. To make an upasana possible, you posit a form or you visualize a form for the Ishvara. That is the purpose. That is the verse. So the verse is nate rupam nachakaraha nayudhani nachaspadam. O Ishvara, there is no form to you. You can follow the meaning of the verse even as I say it, I suppose. Nate rupam nachakaraha nayudhani nachaspadam. Aspadam is a place, a location. Upasakanam karyartham brahmano rupakalpana. So in that sense you have to take the description of a personality associated with Ishvara. Okay. Now the Ishvara is Haraha. You can say Lord Shiva, because the description fits into that kind of a description, that kind of a form. That's why you take it like that, Lord Shiva. It's only meant for upasana, mental worship. Why Lord Shiva? That is another name for Ishvara only. Why Ishvara, the Godhead, is called Haraha? Because Haratiti Haraha. But then Haratiti Harihi also. These pratyayas are like that. These krut pratyayas, there can be a lot of variation. Haratiti Haraha, Haratiti Harihi, Haratiti Hrim. So, teen ho gaye, there are three. And this Hrim goes to Middle East and comes back as Rahim. So, therefore, everything comes from the verb Hara. Hara. See, all these forms are possible. When it comes to Krut Pratyaya, the Padini Maharshi has allowed all Vikalpas. So, Vasarupo Striyam. So, Asarupaha Va. Astriyam. So, except for Stri Pratyayas, all the Krut Pratyayantas, they can be used as a Vikalpa, as an alternate. You can use this or you can use that. Like Bhaktihi. Bhaktihi is a Kin Pratyayanta. Bhaja Kti. Kin. Bhaktihi. It can be made into Lut also. Bhaja Lut. Then it becomes Bhajanam. So, Yuvorana Kau. Lut becomes Ana Bhajanam. So, you can call it Bhajanam. You can call it Bhaktihi. So, that kind of alternates are allowed. Anyway, so coming back to the point, Harihi, Haraha, Hrim. So many things can happen from the same verb in the same meaning. That is the sutra, Vasarupo Striyam. Anyway, so the one who dispels the suffering from the heart, that is the meaning. Haraha. Same meaning you have to give for Hari also. Same meaning you have to give. Same meaning you have to give to Hrim. Some people say Hrim has no meaning. It's okay, it can be taken as a meaningless mantra, or you can as well give a meaning also. This is the meaning. You see, there was a conflict in Haridwar, whether it should be called Haridwar or Haradwar. It is only A versus I. And there was a big conflict going on. And all sadhus are divided into two groups. One is the Haridwar group and other is the Haradwar group. This is like when it comes to Kumbh Mela, who has to take bath first, some conflict will be there, right? And sometimes a fist fight also could be there. Who has to take bath first in Ganga? So, we are a very confrontational society, even among sadhus. Anyway, so what happened is, how it was resolved, they all went to a great Mahatma and asked, what is the real name? Is it Haradwar or Haridwar? Then the Mahatma said, it is neither. It is Gangadwar. Shut up and get out. That is what he said. So anyway, so Haraha. It can be Hari. It doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. Haraha, only Shiva, not Vishnu. Don't take it like that. It just doesn't matter. This Vishnu, Shiva, all this Puranic story problem. In the Vastu there is no division. There is no such a difference at all. So Lord Shiva, coming back to the description of a person, Haraha, Lord Shiva, Vijayate, he is shining gloriously. Haraha Vijayate. Now what is this Haraha? Jnana Pradipaha. You see, the moment you try to put Hara as a person, immediately that person idea is knocked off by saying Hara is none other than the lamp of wisdom. Jnana Pradipaha. I say wisdom. I can also say knowledge, no harm. In fact, the word jna and knowledge, you see the spelling and all that, they come from this, they have the same root, same origin. In English it became knowledge, and in Sanskrit it became jnana. That language, whatever language you call it, it was the same. The origin is the same. So, anyway, some people say English originated from Sanskrit, and some other people say Sanskrit originated from English, but that is not the way in which the philologists, the scientists of the language put it. They put it that both have the same origin from a different source they have come. That source is not available now, but the Indic languages versus European languages, they are available like that. Anyway, so jnana is knowledge. Knowledge is a lamp. Knowledge is always knowledge, or I call it wisdom. So, knowledge, when you say knowledge, it could be something which is in the books, which is in the head, etc. When I say wisdom, it is part and parcel of your life. That is the difference. That's why I said wisdom. So that wisdom or knowledge, whatever you call it, that is always metaphorically presented as a lamp of wisdom. The wisdom itself is considered as a lamp. Because the outer lamp, you see, it helps you to see things. Similarly, the inner wisdom, it helps you to see things correctly. The outer lamp helps you to see things distinctly. In darkness, you cannot distinguish between one thing and the other. In light, you can see them clearly, distinctly, that viveka. The same way, that knowledge inside you will help you to distinguish one from the other correctly. That's why the knowledge is always metaphorically presented as a lamp. So, jnana pradipaha. Deepaha or pradipaha, one and the same. So, the lamp of knowledge. So, the lamp of knowledge, or you can even say the light of knowledge, is Lord Shiva. The moment you say Lord Shiva, immediately a form can come to your mind. That depends upon the conditioning that we have. But then, immediately, by saying jnana pradipaha, the person has now become impersonal. The conditioning of visualizing a form is knocked off by saying jnana pradipaha. So like that we move or we hover between the personal versus the impersonal. So even while describing a person, the poet brings in the impersonal aspect, the impersonal reality of the person. Person is an aspect, impersonal is the reality. So jnana pradipo haraha, the light of knowledge, which is in the form of Lord Shiva, or the Lord Shiva, who is none other than the light of knowledge, shining brilliantly. Where? Shining brilliantly where? You see, a person stays in a home. So this Lord Shiva, he stays in the home of the heart. Chetas Sadmani. Chetaha, you take heart. You see, the general rule is, the person is in the head and God is in the heart. That is the general rule. The person is here. People talk of moving up, not necessary. You have to come down. From the head, the person, the ego, has to trickle down and merge in the God in the heart. Therefore, Chetaha, you can translate it as mind, but then I would say heart. God, where is God? In the mind or in the heart? So saya eshoantar hridaya akashah tasminnayam purusho manomayah. Right? The Taittiriya Upanishad. So, therefore, in the heart, Chetas Satmani, in the abode of the heart, of whom? Yoginam, of the wise people. Yogi, you need not say, the Hatha Yogi. Yoga is knowledge, you know. Yoga is knowledge. Yogi is the wise. Therefore, the Lord Shiva, who is indeed the light of knowledge, is shining brilliantly in the heart of the wise people, in the abode of the heart of the wise people. Did you get it? Now you see that sentence. So, Jnana Pradipo Haraha Yoginam Chetas Sadmani Vijayate. That is the sentence. Okay. Now a few attributes to Haraha. Now every Prathama Ekavachanam becomes an attribute to Haraha, because Haraha is Prathama Ekavachanam, first case singular. So every word which is Prathama Ekavachanam becomes attribute to Haraha. You look at that Bhaswaraha, that is one word, and then Shalabhaha, another word. Spuran is also Prathama Ekavachanam, that also goes to Haraha. Uchchatayan also goes to Haraha. So these four words, if you take as attributes to Haraha, the whole sentence is in place. Are you following this syntax thing? Okay, good. Let us look at the first word. Chudottam sita charu chandra kalika chanchat shikha bhaswaraha. Bhaswaraha means shining brilliantly. Okay. With what? Shikha. Shikha is a tongue of flame. Shikha is always a tongue of flame. Chinchat means flickering tongue of flame. So shining with a flickering tongue of flame. And so what is that flickering tongue of flame? It is the Chandra Kalika, a small piece of the moon. Moon shines, you know. Take a piece of the moon, pluck a piece of the moon, and it will be shining. And assuming a flickering tongue, like a flickering flame, like Kalika is a piece, digit, you know, digit. Digit means a small piece. Chandra is a moon. So, you see, Lord Shiva has a piece of moon on his head. That is the story, right? And this piece, the moon, piece of moon, small piece of moon, one part of the moon, 16th part they say, and that moon is very beautiful, charu. And also, so what Lord Shiva will do with this piece of moon? He uses it as an ornament in his crest jewel, you know. Chudottam sita. Chuda is crest, the locks, and the matted hair, that is the chuda. And in that chuda, he wanted to decorate it. People want to decorate, you know. They want to decorate wherever they can. So, here you decorate. With what? Pluck a piece of moon and decorate. Chudottam sita. Now piece of moon has become a decoration. Chudottam sita chandra kalika. And the piece of moon is shining brilliantly. Sitting and shining could be flickering and shining. And with that shining, Lord Shiva is shining brilliantly. Did you get it? Very simple. Right? Chuda, uttam sita, charu, chandra, kalika, chanchat, shikha, bhaswaraha. Dekho, very simple. So, in the crest, made into an ornament, beautiful moon's piece, which is flickering and shining, because of which Lord Shiva is shining. Okay? You got it? You know some samasa, etc.? You may say, Chudayam uttam sitaha. You say, Chudayam uttam sitaha charuhu chandraha. Okay? So the moon, beautiful, made into an ornament in the crest, chandraha. Tasya kalika. So of that chandra, a digit, a piece, tasyaha chanchachikha, a flickering tongue of that piece of moon. Kalika is Strilinga Shabda. Therefore you have to say tasyaha. Taya bhaswaraha. Why? By that, because of by that. Bhaswaraha, shining brilliantly. Okay? So shall I put it from behind? From behind. Shining brilliantly by the flame which is flickering of a digit of the moon, who is very beautiful and made into an ornament on the crest. Got it? Okay? That is one attribute is over. You know samasa well? What I said, did it make any sense whatever? A little sense did it make? Okay. Okay. I am glad to see that. One more. Leela Dagdha Vilola Kama Shalabhaha. You see. Dagdha Shalabhaha. You look at those two words. Dagdha means turn to ashes. Shalabhaha is a moth. This is Shiva. He has a moth turned into ashes. How easily? Very easily. Leela Dagdha. Very easily turned to ashes. Burnt. A moth. So what is this moth? The kama, the desire. Now we people, we convert everything into we defy everything. Convert everything into a deity. Like a desire. Make a deity out of it. Mr. Kama. Okay? Wealth. Make a deity out of it. Lord Lakshmi, Goddess Lakshmi. Knowledge. Make a deity. Saraswati. Like anger. Anger you should not have, but we make a deity out of anger. So Manyo, Namaste Manyo, like that Manyo Sukta is also there. So like that we make everything into a deity. Kama is made. There are two civilizations in the world. One is Hindu, the ancient Hindu, and the Greek. They have made dozens and dozens of deities out of everything. So every emotion becomes a deity. Every object of the world, like Vidyut, so the Parjanyaha and the lightning and the thunder and the cloud, rain-bearing cloud, every one of them is a deity. Even Akasha is a deity. Akasha Rajaha. He is the king. And he has a daughter who is married to God. All marriages and all that, So like that, when you have so many persons, male and female, going around, now some marriages also have to be arranged, So the storytelling goes on and on and on. Only thing is you should not get too much into you. That is the precaution. Otherwise you will miss the main point. Anyway, the story goes like this. You see, our people, this is the beautiful story with a wonderful message, and so I will describe this small thing and finish the class. Our rishis were great symbologists. For everything they have a beautiful symbolism. So, like God is where in your heart, haraha, in heart. And suppose in that heart, where God is there, where God is shining brilliantly. Suppose God is sleeping in that heart, then nothing will happen. But God is shining brilliantly in the heart, in your heart. God is love, wisdom. That is God. That God is shining brilliantly in your heart. And in that heart, a silly, meaningless desire for the objects of the world raises its ugly head. And it is moving. By moving, because the word is there, spurjat, not spurjat, vilola. It is moving. It is unstable. Means a mind which is having lots of desire, plenty of desires, remains very unstable. So that desire, it is a movement of the mind. That's why vilola. The unstable movement of the mind called a desire. That is what a desire is. Gita prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. So manogatan means, so one Mahatma translated as man mein aaya hua, like that. Gata is coming. Gata is going means reaching. Manaha praptan ityartha. Manogatan means manas praptan. So it has come into the mind. Gata, don't say go. Go also means come. So come into the mind. It has come into the mind. Mind is what? A thought, which is a movement. And this desire. You personify this desire. That is Mr. Desire. Under the wisdom of Ishvara, what will do to the desire? It will just dispel it in no time. Without any effort, the desire is dispelled. People are slaves to desires, whereas a devotee in whose heart Ishvara is shining brilliantly, he is not going to be a slave to the desire. In fact, in his heart, the desire cannot even raise its head. Chalo, it has come, it will be immediately ended. So easily, effortlessly, the desire is dismissed. That is what happens. Now we make a story out of it. The story is, Shiva is sitting like this, and then he sees Parvati and gets a desire, and this desire is caused by Mr. Kama, and therefore he opens his eye, third eye. What is third eye? Third eye is the eye of wisdom, and he opens the third eye. The Kama turns to ashes. Beautiful story, provided you understand the symbolism associated with it. Otherwise it can be misleading also. So we make a ritual. What we do? We collect all the wood. Wood is a very precious item, and put it on the road. You put in your home on the road they put it, and put fire to that and dance around it. That is a silly thing to do, not necessary to do that. And that too wasting fuel like that, and adding to the huge pollution in Delhi by doing that. So therefore all such silly things we do. In doing so, we assume all of it is literally correct. It is not. We should not take things literally. We should take the symbolism associated with it. When the eye of wisdom opens, and when there is a Ishvara shining brilliantly in the heart, in that heart the desire cannot raise its ugly head. Even if it raises its head, it will be dispelled at once in an effortless way. That is that attribute. Leela Dagdha Vilola Kama Shalabha. Now what is Shalabha? Like this moth, it flies and jumps into the fire, assuming that the fire is a fruit, and it gets killed immediately, burnt to ashes. Same thing happens to Mr. Kama. So that is the thing, okay? I will discuss this further in tomorrow's class.